Historic Landmarks Commission, April 9th, 2025. Let's start with a roll call.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I will begin with Chair Grumbine.
Present.
Vice Chair Uli.
Here.
Commissioner Butler.
Here.
Commissioner Ensberg.
Present.
Commissioner Lundvik.
Yes.
And Commissioner McClure.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
All right, great. On to public comment. So any of the public wishing to comment on an item that is not on our agenda today, that's not one of our items, can do so now.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. At this time, I do not have any speaker slips for general public comment, though if anyone would like to speak, they can make that known at this time, although I'm not seeing any movement. I will move on to online participation. We have 2 attendants online. If they would like to speak, they can raise their hand. But I'm not seeing any raised hands, and we didn't receive any written correspondence, so I will give it back to you.
Do you want to speak on an item that's not on this agenda? Okay, great. All right. All right, on to item B, approval of the minutes of Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of March 26, 2025.
So moved.
All right, motion, second. Thank you, Commissioner Butler. All right, and under discussion, any further discussion on it?
I apologize. I did not have time to go through with a fine-tooth comb like I usually do. So I'm sorry.
It was a pretty quiet week.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Okay, so if no discussion, then we'll have a roll call vote for it, please.
Thank you. I'll begin with Commissioner Butler,
Yes?
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner McClure,
Yes.
Vice Chair Uli,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. All right, on to item C, approval of the minutes of Historic Landmarks Commission consent meeting for March 26, 2025.
So moved.
Second?
All right, motion and a second. Any discussions about the consent items? All right, roll call vote, please. Oh, it was the question of whether there were any discussion about our consent meeting minutes from March 26, 2025.
Thank you.
No problem. And hearing none, I will call for a roll call vote.
Thank you. I'll begin with Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes?
Vice Chair Uli,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we're on to item D, ratification of action taken on the consent calendar today, April 9th, 2025.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Everyone's depending on you now for your seconds.
Barely my humble beginnings here.
All right, to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item A was 1637 Oramus Road, which received project design approval as submitted with the appropriate findings. Item B was 1002 Anacapa Street, which received project design approval and final approval with the conditions that the fire riser to be the color of the building, 2, the trash enclosure be the trash enclosure stain color to be Padre Brown, and 3, that the HLC would prefer a terracotta or more pleasant color than yellow for the truncated domes in the accessible path, and the appropriate findings, and that was all for consent.
All right, thank you. All right, and to the commission, any questions or discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Thank you. I'll begin with Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes?
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Vice Chair Uli,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving right along to item E, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe Ms. Hernandez has 2 announcements for today.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission. Commissioners, the MEA updates to the Historic Resource Guidelines is going to be on the council agenda on April 29th on the consent agenda. And the EIR for the Los Patos Bridge demolition is going to be posted on April 11th, and you will be getting an email with a link to that EIR with the passages, the historic resource passages for that you should really focus on. It's going to be coming to HLC on the 23rd for your comments to forward to Planning Commission
The address of that EIR again?
It's the Los Patos Bridge underpass right by the bird refuge.
Thank you.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
that-
You guys last saw it, and I know it was April 15th, 2020, because I just had to read those minutes again, where, so they're demolishing it, or proposing to demolish it. So this is
Yep.
our first EIR since I've
Yeah.
been here. I've been here for
We said,
13
"We
years.
like it, save it." And they said,
No way.
nope.
So it is. So you'll get an email tomorrow with a link to the post. The post will be up on Friday. We can't post it till the same day as the public. And then when you send recommendations to Planning Commission, they'll certify the EIR. Once certified, it'll have to come back to you for you to make demolition findings. And then it's got a long way to go. Anyway, it's on its way.
And will that'll be, so we'll discuss it on April 23rd?
Yes, that's the agenda. So you'll have it in plenty of time to read it. But I think your section's only 12 pages. Riveting time. There you go.
Chair
Easy.
Grumbine?
Yes, Commissioner Blair.
Let's see, I have to leave at 2:40,
Okay.
and I reviewed 321 East Islay, and I don't see any problem. I don't have any issues with it. It's preliminary.
Oh, wait,
Which one?
'Cause,
Oh.
well, you'll probably still be here.
the ARC,
Maybe.
yeah.
Concept.
Let's
If
get
I'm
to it, and then at the intro part, we might have let
Okay.
you, if you're, yeah.
Okay.
Let's see if we can do it.
All right.
Might get there.
Yeah. Okay, but thanks for notifying as well. All right, any other, Commissioner Ensberg?
Yes, Chair Grumbine. I just wanted to share about a program that I went to last Friday, which was part of the Kellam DeForest series of the Pearl Chase Society. It was over at the Alacama Theater, and it was really excellent. It was about our friend Dennis Whalen, architect, who is the vice chair of ABR, gave a really nice presentation about the history of historical preservation. And I think it will also be up possibly on the website at some point, and I would really urge you all to look at it. It's right up our alley. And also they had Sue Adams and Barbara Lowenthal also participated and gave comments, which was really, really interesting. And also of great interest was, kind of talking about what is going on in Santa Barbara right now. And Sue Adams asked the group how many people in the group supported the way State Street is right now. There were about 60 people there. No hands came up. And then she asked how many people supported the street opening back up to automobiles, and all the hands came up. Interesting.
Thank you.
So anyway, just want to share that and check it out if you can. I think it was very helpful for our work. Thank you.
Great, thank you, and thank you for attending. All right, any other announcements, et cetera? All right, on to F, Subcommittee reports.
Nothing from designations.
Other subcommittees, did you want to, yep, Commissioner Ensberg?
Let's see, I have, well, one thing before, about the signs. Does the sign committee actually exist anymore? And what's going on with the sign committee? And is there,
Yeah, do we exist? Yeah.
Yes, the sign committee does exist. We do have liaisons from the HLC for
Yeah,
the sign
Commissioner
committee.
Drury.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm
so
one of
since
them.
Commissioner Jury is not here, he would be the best person to give any updates on the sign committee. I don't want to get too into it because it's not on today's agenda, but the sign ordinance is currently
Is
in.
it once a month? What's the?
It meets bi-weekly, like our
Okay.
regular board meetings, but they're
Okay.
frequently canceled because a lot of signs meet our conforming review standards, which means that they can be reviewed by the chair outside of the formal hearing. So that's why a lot of the meetings are canceled, and we don't see a lot of them going to the full committee. So
Okay.
I don't want to get too much into the
no,
sign
no,
committee.
that's okay. Should I signed up to be I guess, the alternate or something. Should I try to go to some of these meetings or something?
No, you'll be contacted by staff if you're ever needed to fill a spot, if there are enough absences that you're needed to fill a spot, but
Okay,
Yeah.
other than just for entertainment purposes only?
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly attend as an audience member and see the thrilling world of sign review.
Or talk
Okay.
Commissioner Drury out of it, that you can swap from.
Okay, all right.
root canal.
So then the other thing I wanted to report about for our work group,
Yeah.
which is Chair Grumbine and myself and Commissioner McClure, we have not had a meeting recently, but last time we spoke, or at our last meeting, we talked about the paseos, so I'm hoping that we will have a meeting sometime before long. I did get a reach out from the gentleman who has the paseo, the building on that paseo over off of Figueroa that we all had the meeting at, which, and not to get into a discussion about it, but he is expressing concern, further concern about the lack of anything going on there. So that, and then I believe the work is continuing. We got an email this morning from Tess Harris about the work that's going on with regard to the furniture, fixtures, and equipment for the outdoor dining part. And
It's going to come to HLC.
Yes.
Which we have been meeting and revising, and it's supposed to be coming to HLC fairly soon.
yes, and then I think the other part is the prototype project that's happening on the 1200 block that you all remember that we reviewed, where they're taking out some of the plantings and filling in with the brick, and it's part of the work that's happening on State Street right now. I think she said that they expect it to be on the 1200 block around the end of April and finishing up in the first part of May.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Was there anything else that I forgot?
I think the only other piece is just a confirming of what's happening, which is that we're making sure that our group is meeting with staff prior to anything going before City Council, which is, I think, our new rhythm is a lot better than we had previously. So I think there's been an improvement in terms of our number of our meetings, and we're just wanting to confirm as well with staff that the game plan of making sure that we're meeting with, it's usually Sarah and Tessa and them, or Tess, sorry. Just wanting to confirm, maybe through staff, that whenever anything that our group is responsible for speaking to City Council, that we're meeting ahead of time with staff so that we're on the same page. So just wanting to confirm that that's going to be the process going forward. We haven't had one yet for City Council post last couple months, so just wanting to confirm that from the staff's perspective, that that's going to be the rhythm that we're doing.
So just to clarify, you are looking for staff to confirm that before any decisions made by the State Street Interim Working Group go to City Council, that they will be...
Yeah, because what was a rhythm, it was just sort of random, but whenever there was an item about the State Street stuff, like, then staff would go and present, but we wanted to make sure that we're part of that review and discussion process, because then we were expected also to be there and to be part of this. I was usually me, but Cass was subbing as well for speaking on behalf of HLC's involvement with staff on it. Just wanted to confirm that that's official process is going to be that our State Street group is going to be meeting with staff prior to any meeting with City Council.
Meeting with HLC staff or State Street staff?
State Street staff. The State Street group, Sarah Clark and Tess Harris. They would know, but we just want to confirm that that is the process that we are going to be doing.
I can reach out to
Okay,
confirm
great.
that process.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Lembeck.
this is all very interesting to know that you think somebody ought to be kept informed. Am I not under the impression that changes to State Street in the EPV area require landmarks review and approval?
It depends on what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, read the charter. Read the charter.
The reason I'm saying that, where we can't get into discussion about it, the reason I'm saying that is because of what City Council over the last 5 years has shifted some of that, so that things are going to City Council prior. So I agree in theory, yes, that's what should be happening. In practice, there are other things that have been overlaid which is why we know that we haven't been reviewing everything that has been happening. And this subcommittee group is a way of trying to keep the HLC's input in that. So, but I don't want to get into discussion about it. We need to keep moving. But it is.
But you're right.
But you're right. We're supposed to come. That's the process that has been set up.
The rules
So
are
We
thrown out.
we don't want to get into discussion about it, but we're not going to talk about it at landmarks.
Which,
Anything.
Changes to State Street.
well,
That's
'cause
being
we're talking
proposed right
about-
now, furniture, platters.
No, that we are. So that is going to come to HLC. So all the stuff that the work group has been working on, our subcommittee for the State Street stuff of getting specs for furnishings and things like that, is going to come to HLC
Thank you.
for review. Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
And-
And just
and-
like the 1200 block did as well, in terms of trying to help and then coming to here.
And just to, Chair Grumbine, just to clarify that it is confusing, and we can't really talk about it, but we'd like to talk about it. So I don't know what we do about that. But anyway,
on the agenda to talk
what
about
I think the chair is trying to clarify is that anything with respect to State Street, that we are informed beforehand so that we can be present at meetings and to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I do know that the Pedlets are going to be coming for approval, I think, in a week or so. As
Through the
as
chair
a-
to the rest of the commission. Yes, so I've been notified by Tess Harris, I believe the pre-approved designs that you've been working on in the interim group are coming, I believe, May 7th. I haven't confirmed that date with her yet, to Historic Landmarks Commission. That is an opportunity where you can clarify some of your purview with Tess and Sarah Clark, who should be attending that hearing. I can also confirm the process with them as well and report back to the commission, but I want to cut off the discussion there. So staff, you have what you've been working on with the interim working group coming to you on May 7th, and I will confirm the process and where the HLC falls in that purview with those staff members and get back to you, and then we can.
On to item.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, any other subcommittee reports? All right, on to, and we're 3 minutes late, but we will charge forward. On to item 1, Historic Structures Report for 2314 State Street. This is a review of Historic Structures Sites Report for a 1926 period revival style cottage, requesting acceptance of a Historic Structure Sites Report prepared by Post Hazeltine. The report concluded that the period revival style cottage constructed in 1926 is eligible for listing on the Historic Resources Inventory, but the vernacular type garage does not make a substantial contribution to the streetscape or residence. And with that, welcome, if you would introduce
I am
yourself.
Tim Hazeltine from Post Hazeltine Associates.
All right, great.
And I'll cursor through the report. So essentially, the house was built in circa 1926. It's a very modest example of Spanish colonial revival, though I think some people, it's one of those that's so simple that if you put a English-style shingle roof on the top, it might look a little different. If you put tiling on it, it would look more Mediterranean. But its primary significance is, one, is it's an example of sort of small houses that were being built in Santa Barbara in the 1920s, largely promoted by the small house movement. But also, more critically, is it's its contribution to the State Street Parkway, which is a city of Santa Barbara landmark. So the house is one of, I'll bring up some images here. I've got one here. This is just a parcel map just depicting the different houses and their addresses on the side of the block that the house is on at 2314. And it's a substantially intact streetscape. And we have a listing here of the buildings and identifies their style. As you can see, there's a cottage style, a Spanish colonial revival, English cottage, American colonial revival, a typical kind of mix of period revival houses, modestly scaled, all built, around this time period between, mostly in the 1920s and later, a couple a little earlier. And the State Street Parkway was installed in about 1912, 1913. And one of the characteristic features of this block that contributes to the parkway are the houses. Because if you looked at that block in the future and there were say those houses were replaced by larger residential units, multi-residential or commercial, it would lose its setting. So one of the reasons we feel that the property should be on the historic resources inventory is because critically it contributes to that streetscape, and the diminution of those period revival houses would diminish the setting of the streetscape. And when it was built, it was conceived of as a residential block, which it still is mostly, and or is entirely. And most of the houses have these characteristic features: modest size, period revival style architecture, and not restrained, but the use of sandstone for retaining walls, steps, and some walls in some areas. So it forms a sort of assemblage that it really does speak to a very specific time and place and period in the city's history. And the State Street Parkway also represents one of the few blocks in the city where
You want to
the,
keep scrolling to like
Oh,
something
sure.
nicer to look at?
oh, I'm sorry. There we go. There's another lovely image. It's so boring. Apologies for that.
Let's see the house. for God's sakes.
Okay, great. I will bring the house up. Here's some of the streetscape. So this is what I've been talking about. Instead of yammering on, I'll just show some images as the chair requested. So you can see here is the State Street Parkway with this residences on either side.
Yeah, can you zoom in?
Let me get the image more centered. There we go. This is the subject house.
If you press the plus sign at the top. Use your fingers. Or just.
Oh, I can, okay.
Yeah, you can.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. And you can see it has a low sandstone retaining wall. And there are some sandstone curbs, as you can see, as a broken piece there on the street. So the block does preserve a fair amount of that sandstone curbing.
And the garage in this
The
shot
garage
is
is
far,
way
far
in the back there where the car is. And you can see the house is very simple in form, but very characteristic of the period revival, especially for modest houses where the decorative elements or architectural elements are just very restrained. At this point, it's basically arches, massing, and roof lines. And you can see a better view of that. Here's the house in context with the street, and some more images. This is the west side of the street. And here's the house again, and I'll bring up the garage, which is the one building we found. And here's another view. Has this really nice porch coming up, which is a nice feature you often find on these more modest Spanish colonial revival houses with an elevated porch. Here's the door, which is one of the most Mediterranean elements of the entire building, is the spindle work on the window, on the plank door. Here's the back of the house. And we're getting to the riveting garage in just a moment. I'll get a better picture of it here. Here's just more shots. And here we go. The reason we found it not eligible, one is it's at the far back end of the lot, so it doesn't substantially contribute to the streetscape. Secondly, it's basically a vernacular wood frame building that doesn't really have much in the way of architecture. I'd call it utilitarian, and the materials style have no real relationship to the house. So in summary, I'll just repeat that our conclusion was that it is eligible for the city's historic resources inventory as an example of a modest period revival house of the era, and more prominently because of its contribution to this historic landmarked State Street Parkway.
All right. Great. If that concludes your presentation, we'll go to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this item on the historic structures report?
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. At this time, I don't currently have any speaker slips for in-person public comment for this item, but anyone who would like to speak can bring me the speaker slip at this time. And I'm not seeing any movement, so I'll move to online participation. If anyone online would like to speak on this item, they can raise their hand at this time. And I'm not seeing any raised hands, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this, so I'll give it back to you.
All right. Thank you. All right. To the commission for any questions? Pretty straightforward. Yep. Commissioner Lendick? Oh, sorry. Close public comment. There we go. Thank you. Thank you for keeping good order. All right. Any questions?
I have a question. You use the term period revival style. What is period revival style?
Commissioner? And I'm sorry, I didn't turn on my mic. Period revival is a movement that basically has a number of styles in it. They're all heavily influenced either by the architecture in different areas of the United States, like the Eastern Seaboard, American Colonial Revival. You've got Mediterranean Revival, which in some cases is influenced by the architecture of colonial and Mexican era Southwest, and also other styles that essentially are ones derived from Europe. So that would be like the Tudor Revival, and there's some subsets. So it's like an overall category, and inside of that are these manifestations which recall different styles, historically based styles. And sometimes you also find ones that conflate elements from several of these period revival styles. It was a motif, and it was extremely popular basically between the teens of the 20th century and about 1930 and 1935.
But not in Santa Barbara necessarily.
Yes. Well, the Spanish colonial revival is the sort of dominant style, and it's the one
Yes.
that, created the identity of the city visually. But if you look through these neighborhoods, like this street is a really great example, often it's an amalgam of these different kind of iterations of the period revival. So that's why there's a mix here. There's Tudor revival, there's American colonial revival, and as you noted, there's Spanish colonial revival. So that mix is one of the characteristic features for most of Santa Barbara.
And sort of tacking onto that, in the small house book, or the sort of the catalog of all the entries, they divided it into three, I think. They had the sort of Spanish, they had the English cottage, which was like Tudor revival, and then they had wood, which was like shingle and vernacular.
Which is supposed to, yeah, it's
siding
supposed to,
and shingle.
yeah, it's supposed to be recalling American colonial era architecture of mostly the Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah, and a lot of it was almost mix and matchy. If you could change the roof pitch and
Yeah.
added a tile, then you'd have one versus another.
Well, that was my point, I think, the comment I made about roofing, like you could almost not change the style, but it can it look more like one style than another, depending on things like roofing, or in this case, it's the plankwood door with the spindles and the arched gate openings and the entrance to the
True arch
porch.
as opposed to like a Tudor arch. Or
Yeah, so it's a rounded arch, so that's much more of a sort of Spanish colonial revival, Mediterranean-esque feature.
All right, any other questions? All right, comments? All good?
Well, my comment is I'm not sure that I could support the fact that this is a small house and therefore warrants even the meager designation that's being proposed here. Placed on the inventory. Yeah. I mean, it has none of the things that we would expect to see in Spanish colonial revival.
Well, I mean, there's a true arch, there's the walls with openings, and there's some simple details that.
Well, it doesn't have a Spanish style roof.
Yeah.
It doesn't have deep recessed windows or doors. It doesn't have, I don't think that the openings in the wall surfaces are necessarily proportioned as we would expect for Spanish colonial revival. I mean, there's so much that is not there that I find it hard to reach the conclusion that you've got a plaster building painted white and it's small and therefore deserves some kind of
and
meager
it's
recognition.
original, pretty much original to its, it has a lot of integrity, right? So, but also the other thing is that it seems like it's an argument through like, of the 7 or 8 criteria or whatever they are, style as being an exemplar of style is one of the options, is not the only, and as a type, it seems to fall well within that type, even if it's not as, like early 1900s buildings are really hard to define what the style is oftentimes, and they're oftentimes just not craftsman, they're not, American colonial revival, there's some sort of a hybrid mixed, and they still could have value for being on a historic inventory. They don't have to be they don't have to be such stellar examples. So I don't know. That's a counter to that idea, but
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Commissioner Ensberg.
Could I, add to this discussion? I think what Mr. Hazeltine is saying, and in the report, is that it's not only that, it's a simple, and it's a amalgamation, or it's some kind of a mix of different styles, but that it's also its placement and how it works with the entire, which you brought out, the
With the historic
composition
landmark.
of the street and how it contributes to that. So even though it's a very, modest, it still has some nice elements to it. It has all the basic stuff. It just isn't ornamented out as much as we might see. So I think it's really, in my view, I agree with how it contributes to the overall and to the street, and that it is original to the time that it was built,
Mr.
if
Chair.
I got that correctly.
I just wanted to add that the report also illustrated that it was part of that small house movement and the small house competitions and a iteration of that as the importance of the
It's part of
building
our collective history in terms of
Yes.
how the city came to be what it is.
coming in on that movement
Yeah.
as well as not being one of the big grand exemplary examples of the style, but what the small house movement and AIA was doing at the time to get good quality housing in our cities and our own plans and plantings committee.
Commissioner Butler?
Yeah, when I first saw the house, I expected a red clay tile roof or something to drag this into some more recognizable category here. So that kind of threw me off. I recognize it's a little more generic or a little more indicative, less indicative of the Spanish colonial style, but more of a period. I asked the question, what period are we reviving here? But anyway, is the roof original? I mean, is the same materials at least to when the house was built?
May I ask?
Yes, please.
Okay, we're not sure. We just, because from the late 20s and early 30s, the only image we have are aerial photos, and they're taken at like 24,000 feet, most of them. So it's kind of fuzzy, and it's possible, we didn't want to put that in the report because we didn't have evidence, but it's possible it had a clay tile roof. But you do sometimes see these, especially for these really small house, and small house I mean by a modest residential building, usually one story. And they're doing it in the period revival style, but it doesn't mean that every single time they're adhering to the elements that we would expect for Spanish colonial revival. And so lacking that one element to us did not diminish its connection to the small house movement, but more importantly, to its ability to convey the setting of the State Street Parkway, which is landmarked. And when you look at that building, you can still see it is a building from the 20s. It looks, I think, for most people that have some modest knowledge of architecture would think that's old. It fits in with all the other houses on the street, in time period. And I think I'd go back to my comment, and that Pam and I really strongly thought, is that the setting of the State Street Parkway is a really critical element of that historic resource, because the parkway itself is just the planter strip. I mean, but it's the setting that was created around the time the State Street Parkway that was installed that is a critical element to allow us to interpret it and to look at it and understand it in the now and in the future too. And I think if those houses gradually get replaced, honestly, you could wonder, why is this little planter, in 50 years, if the streetscape is radically changed, why is this planter a landmark if it's surrounded by all these bigger buildings? I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if that did happen, that would certainly diminish I think, the parkway.
Thank you. All right, so we've had discussion. I think
I'll move to accept the Historic Structures Site Report for 2314 State Street that puts the property on the historic inventory list.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second under discussion. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I will begin with Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvik,
No.
Commissioner McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Uli,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
And then Commissioner Lenvik, do you want to provide?
I don't believe that I could I could vote for this based on the requirements of finding 3 of the city's application standards for significance criteria.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so we are on to item 2, the archaeology report. And this is for 321 East Eastley. And it is designated structure of merit, constructed in 1914 in the American colonial revival style. Proposal for a new detached accessory dwelling unit with attached 2-car garage and storage area for a total of 1,620 square feet. Project includes a new pool, spa, 110 square foot pool hut, trellis, barbecue area, 6-foot-high wood fence, front garden wall and sidewalk with wrought iron fencing, driveway gate and mechanical equipment, and retaining wall, hardscape and landscape alterations, removal of 11 trees, and demolition of the existing 2-car garage. Requesting acceptance of a Phase 1 archaeological resources report prepared by David Stone, Stone Archaeological Consulting. Dr. Glassow reviewed the report and agrees with its conclusions and recommendations. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Paul Zink. I'm the architect for this project. David Stone is not available, so I'm speaking on his behalf.
You didn't look like him, so.
Okay. And just so the public knows that this first item is about the archaeological
Archaeological
report
report only.
And the architecture is going to be another agenda item, the next item. What I want to bring to your attention, and that was mentioned in the report, the Dr. Glassow did review it and agreed with the findings. In the report, it noted that there are 8 previous archaeological reports within a quarter mile. All of them had negative findings, and so the likelihood of them finding anything in this project when we were doing our construction was minimal. We'll have the generic notes on the plans, but that was his conclusion.
Great. All right. Thank you for that summary. All right. And now we'll open public comment for this item for the archaeology report. Anyone in the room wishing to comment on the archaeology report only? I do. Okay. If you want to go up to the microphone there.
Come here, whichever.
Or come here. Yeah. Actually, yeah. You can come right on over. And just for clarity, this is just only for the archaeology report, not for the actual project yet. So,
No, so just to clarify through the chair to members of the public, the archaeology report is confidential, so it was not posted online, it's not available to the public. The commission reviewed it, and it was reviewed by our consultant. So if you have public comment on the project, please wait until the next item, which is review of the project itself. If you have comments on the archaeology report, which again was not posted for public view, you can make those comments now, but just keep in mind that the comments on the project are for the next item. We are legally required to open public comment for every item. So if you want to wait till the next item, you'll have a chance to comment on the
Yes,
project
yeah,
itself
yeah.
on the next
Comment on
item.
something you have.
yes.
The conclusions of the report just stated that they didn't find any archaeological resources at the site.
Yeah. Yeah, or that they don't think there's a chance, because they had all these other archaeology reports and studies before all around that area, they don't think that there's a real chance of finding anything in that area. So sometimes the sites, you have archaeology in the site or known close by, and then right away, they always make it more, go to build slowly, basically. Okay? All right. Okay. Continue with public comment?
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. So I don't currently have any speaker slips for this item. Moving to online participation, if anyone would like to speak on this item, they can raise their hand at this time, which I'm not seeing any raised hands, and we didn't receive any written correspondence for this, so I will give it back to you.
All right. Back to the commission for any questions.
And that was the close of public comment.
Oh, yes, and that was the close. You couldn't hear me? I just whispered it really soft. All right, closing public comment and to the commission for questions about the archaeology report. All right, comments and a motion?
I'll move to accept the report as written.
I'll second that.
All right, second by Commissioner Lenvik. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I'll begin with Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvik,
Yes.
Commissioner McClure,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes,
Vice Chair Uli,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so now we are on to the last item of the day. We are only 5 minutes late. That's good. That's good so far. So because we are where we are, and in terms of numbers as well. Actually, yeah, we'll still be in quorum when Commissioner McClure leaves. I need to leave around 3:30, but I can push it if need be. If hopefully that won't need be. But just just so it's aware. But I think we should be able. If we can't do it by 3:30, we have other issues.
You'll need to use
All
your
right.
hammer.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we are on to item 2. This is 3, thank you. This is a new item for concept review of 321 East Islay. This is designated a structure of merit constructed in 1914 in the American Colonial Revival style. Proposal for a new detached accessory dwelling unit with attached two-car garage and storage area for a total of 16,200 square feet, or 1620 square feet. Project includes a new pool and spa, 110 square foot pool hut, trellis, barbecue area, 6-foot-high wood fence, front garden wall and sidewalk with wrought iron fencing, driveway gate, mechanical equipment and retaining wall, hardscape and landscape alterations, removal of 11 trees, and demolition of the existing two-car garage. No final appealable action will take place at this meeting. Project compatibility findings will be required for project design approval. There was a historic significance report, and so with that, welcome. If you would introduce yourself for the record, and then you will have, I guess we'll go to staff for anything, and then you'll have 15 minutes, up to 15 minutes to present your project.
No real staff comments other than just to, through the chair and to any members of the public and the applicant team, just a reminder that the commission does not have purview over private views, only public views, and that there are no proposed changes to the historic residence under this permit. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
All right, thank you. So welcome.
Hello, my name is Paul Zink. I'm the architect for this project, and I haven't used this system in a while,
Okay,
so
yes.
I need to refresh my memory
No
as I
worries.
move through
You can
it.
just touch the screen.
Yeah, screen touch and scroll is probably the easiest, and pinch it in and out.
And
for
how do I go
Zoom.
to the next, there we go. So that's the aerial photograph of our site. One thing I'd like to point out, and I have some photographs of it later, the existing garage is built 2 inches from the property line, and it is 110 feet from the back of sidewalk. We'll be demolishing the existing two-car garage, but it's not 20 by 20 interior dimension, so the existing garage is getting larger. And with that, you'll see the design that I've actually created 2 single-car garage doors in that process. In the rear of the garage, you'll see that there is a roof there, but that roof did not have a permit. It was an actual storage building. We demolished it as part of our project. We kept the concrete slab there. You can also see that there's a lot of paving that's on the property. That was to our advantage, so that when we did stormwater management, I'm not increasing the amount of impervious area, so I don't have to do water retention. For some reason, if I lose that arm wrestling match, I'll go with underground water cisterns in the driveway. So I just wanted to bring that to next one. That's the wrong way, this way. Photographs pinch. We'll just, this is probably the most important part, to show you is the distance, 110 feet. It's way back there, but that's a one garage door, but it's only 15 feet wide. Now we'll have 2 garage doors. We're not touching the main part of the house. I want to show you the site plan and really say that there are 3 aspects that I want to go over with you, and then a 4th one that's part of public comment. I'll be talking about the ADU with an attached 2-car garage, the swimming pool, and all those works. And then the in the front of the property, we are proposing a wall, sandstone wall, and wrought iron work. Let's move to the next one. So that's so this is our proposed project. Our ADU is in the back of the property, and as you can see where the garage is located, you can see how it's stepped back, the 2 elements, and that was because the first part of the garage is going to be 6 inches from the property line, and it has to have a lower plate height because I'm rebuilding the existing structure, and then I can go with a standard height for the second car garage that's further out. And then there might be some comments in the back. There is an air conditioning unit and pool equipment, but all that kind of stuff will be following the city's sound ordinances, and that's pretty dialed in on what we're required to do. Site plan. Oops. There we go, stormwater management. And then this is our wrought iron, stone walls and wrought iron for the front. And we're creating this look to sort of create a public terrace in the front, and then more of a private terrace behind the wrought iron. They have dogs, and they would like to keep the dogs fenced in and not imposing to the sidewalk, and it just creates layers that currently we don't have on the site. The front elevation is basically a hedge, and then it's just lawn that goes up to the house. So that's part of the element that we're designing. And then the existing house itself, what I want to bring out to here, the existing garage is that we're rebuilding. We're not increasing the height. We're increasing the height once we're beyond the setback area. So this just proves that the actual garage will be taller than the existing garage, but only outside the setback area. And then, oops, oh, that was fast. Yeah, the existing garage and shed, forget about that. Move on to the floor plan. Floor plan of the ADU. ADU is 1,072 square feet, and the garage itself is 500 square feet, and then there's a storage area of 46 square feet that's kind of sandwiched in between. What's interesting, grade-wise, is that the ADU is 4 feet from the property line, and I have to slope the existing land from the rear of the property to the garage. The elevation of the garage has already been determined. So at 2% slope, I have basically 2 to 3 feet of grading that I'm going to be doing along that property line. So I am proposing a retaining wall along the property line, and I'm dropping the grade. Currently, where that shed was built, there was a CMU block retaining wall behind the shed that when we took it down, we had to regrade a little portion of that. So along the property line, that area, we're just going to have it sloping to the where the garage is, and then I have 2 area drains for drainage to get the water out of that zone. And elevation-wise, the existing house has 12 and 12 roof pitches. We're keeping this house, the ADU portion of it, at 16.5 from the pool side. From that rear side where I'm cutting the grade, it's actually at 18 feet, but I'm dropping the grade by 2 feet. And that's so that I'm matching the grade that is at the garage that's currently in place. I have a 6 and 12 roof pitch here. I'm planning on using Hardy Artisan siding, which is the thicker material. It's 5/8 inch thick, and it has a 7 1/4 reveal, and it allows for a mitered corner. And I feel that's important because that's what the existing house has, was the mitered corners. And I have pictures and examples to show, but I'm here for conceptual approval. When I come for preliminary approval, I'll have a color board and I'll have details and such. But what I wanted to also bring to your attention was the variations that are happening with the facade when you're looking at it. It's 110 feet back, and then you have the single car garage, and then you have a slightly larger garage that's 9 feet by 8 feet, and then a different slope on the roof, and they're pushed back the plane-wise by 18 inches. And that's just to offset the look, and then the house layers back as it goes. And then there is a covered patio area that relates to the pool, but they plan on putting a fence in there and dividing what's going to be part of the rental and what's part of the main house, which is what we plan on putting in that location. And that's the side. We have already built the wooden fence along the property line, the 6 foot high. Even though it's noted on your application, it's already in place. And so that's the elevation from the neighbor. Lastly, wanted to show you some 3D images that are from the actual house itself, looking at the ADU. We have 2 dormers to break it up, and we have basically a fake chimney up there. Red brick, but it's to tie into the original house itself. The original house, I'll talk about that chimney in a minute. The swimming pool itself, and then the pool hut, which is and the pool equipment that's to the side of that. And oops, let's go back. Sorry about this. Oh, that's the elevation. Okay, forget about that part. You've already reviewed the drawings. Let's see if that's it. Here's that garage once again, seeing the edge corner of the original house. That's the garage you see, and then the pool hut behind that, and the platform that the swimming pool is on. And then the last thing I'll do review is the landscaping. Billy Goodnick is our landscape architect. He's worked with the owners. That's the pool terrace. It's pretty benign. It's 110 square feet and a 200 square foot trellis and a barbecue area. Landscape plan, we've broken the house into zones, the front zone relating to the street. We have a natural sandstone.
The architect again, landscape?
Billy Goodnick is the landscape architect, and he's not here today. But if you have any questions, we'll put it down, and I'll have him for here at the preliminary approval. Swimming pool and the landscaping. So that's what we have going for that. And then the next page is all his different plants that I can't read. So of that, that is my presentation. Oh, so let me go back to the big site plan. In the site plan, I talked about the ADU, I talked about the swimming pool, and then in the front, I talked about the terraces we're doing with the stone wall and the wrought iron railing for the upper portion of it. The fourth item I want to bring to your attention is the fireplace. We currently have a building permit on the property to remodel the interior. As a part of that, I applied for a staff approval on removing the existing unreinforced masonry chimney.
Through the chair to the applicant, if it's not covered in this application, you shouldn't address it in your presentation.
Never mind.
Thank
I
you
will.
so much.
It has a permit. And other than that, we'll move on. Okay, that's my presentation for you folks.
All right. Great, thank you. If that completes your presentation, we'll go on to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. At this time, I do have 4 speaker slips for in-person public comment. Our first speaker will be Greg Dolan. If you would like to come up to the podium right here, you can just make sure the microphone is on. Just tap the button, and then you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Hopefully it won't be that. I'm Greg Dolan. I moved here in 1950.
Oh, wait, I don't know. Is
It's
there?
not on?
Green light?
Try pressing it. Okay.
Oh, it wasn't quite as green as it should be. So I'm Greg Dolan. I moved here in 1957, and I bought 1821 Laguna Street in 1989. And I very much enjoy this particular neighborhood. And my only comment is that I've looked at the preliminary plans, and they look very sympathetic to the neighborhood. For what it's worth, I certainly approve of it. And I know this isn't relevant, but I also appreciate the Pearl Chase thing on Friday regarding another issue, Commissioner Ellsberg. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have Elena Urschel. You can come up to that front microphone if you would like to stay in the chair.
I'm going to read the letter that I wrote to the committee. Dear committee, I have several concerns, and one is the chimney. It's now under construction without any notification. Okay, all right, sorry. Let me start over. I have several concerns, and one is the chimney that is now under construction without any notification and an opportunity to object to this forum. An opportunity to object to this from any of the neighbors. The chimney construction is going to be taller and not in the same style as the old one, which had a lot of charm. This one does not fit the style of the house that is a house of merit. The new chimney looks like it's at least 18 inches taller. Where's the detailed drawing of it? We weren't given a chance to object to this or talk about it or anything. A permit was issued on this. Why weren't we given a postcard on this?
We'll probably get to that when it comes back to our turn. So.
When what?
Well, after public comment. That'll,
okay.
yeah, if you want to keep going.
Yeah, okay. I've attached 2 photographs of my porch in the back of my house where I spend a lot of my time. And I do not want one more structure blocking my view of the Riviera and the mountains. Because I did not educate myself about the city of Santa Barbara and the Architectural Review Committee and the inner workings of it, I now have this monster house on Laguna Street that blocks a lot of my view. Not only that, but it is ugly to look at. Of course, it must be a big tax advantage for the city. I can't understand for what reason it was approved except for the tax dollars. It's a 3-story house behind me on Laguna. All the beautiful gardens and the trees will be gone, and this town will be left with a lot of hardscape structures. I would like to be put on the interested party list to receive updates when this project is scheduled. Please send updates to above email address. Thank you, Elena. I attached 2 pictures of the chimney for my house. This first picture here was taken in October of last year. It's a very charming chimney. It looks like it's not real tall. The new one is very tall. It doesn't look like it goes with the architecture of the house at all. Did you all get this email this morning?
It's in your letter.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
What's your name?
Elena Urschel. I live at 1812 Garden Street.
1812.
Yes,
All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker that I have is Larry Marks, and that will be followed by Stephen Olson. Larry Marks, if you want to come on up to the podium here. The mic is still on.
I live at 327 East Islay Street, which is adjacent. and I liked what I saw. I haven't seen the plans before. The only question I had is how far back is the pool hut and how tall is it? Far back from the sidewalk?
I'll answer it in a minute.
Okay. That's my only comment.
Okay, thank you. The final speaker slip that I have for in-person public comment is Stephen Olson. If anyone else would like to speak, they can bring me one at this time. But after that, we'll move on to virtual participation.
Working? My name is Stephen Olson. I live at 1816 Garden. This right behind Kitty Corner is this project. I have a number of comments. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get through all of them. Questions, comments. One, was there a demo permit for the garage? Is the spa enclosed, or are you talking about a jacuzzi? Why isn't the setback being conformed to for the garage? You're building a brand-new garage. I don't understand why the setback wouldn't be conformed to. Is the 6-foot-high wood fence to code? There's all this stuff is listed here as if this is a variance. I'm very confused by that. I don't understand why all these items, wrought iron fencing, driveway gate, all these things goes on and on and on. I mean, is this a variance? I mean, if we're just reporting to the historic commission, why isn't only the items that pertain to the historic commission listed? If these are all the items that are being asked for approval, then you're going to be making an approval on items that have nothing to do with the historic aspects of the house. Mechanical equipment. Is there an exterior enclosure for mechanical equipment? Why is that on the list? 11 trees. Again, why are 11 trees being removed? Why is it on the list? Covered patio is not on the list. Should that be on the list? And finally, I recommend that the chimney be removed on the ADU. There's no need for a fake chimney. It's begging to have a fireplace bootlegged in later. There's no need to have a chimney to be conforming to the existing house. Those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'll now move on to virtual participation.
Sorry, what were you asking? Add one more thing. Why don't we do the next comment, and then we'll close with yours.
I don't have any more in person.
Oh, no more?
so-
Okay. Yeah, sure. Let's let you have one more. And then do you want to check to see if we have any online as well?
If anyone online would like to speak, they can raise their hands at this time.
I wasn't familiar with what a.
Oh, yeah, sorry. We'll reintroduce you in a second. Yeah. We just want to make sure we have the online stuff.
No hands were raised online, so she can.
Okay. And then can you introduce yourself for the record again?
Yes, my name is Elena Urschel.
Okay, great.
I've been here for 25 years in the same home at 1812 Garden Street. Okay, so I was not familiar with what colonial revival architecture was like, or what constitutes that particular kind of architecture. So I looked it up online. It says here, however, some commonly found characteristics of colonial revival buildings include gabled, hipped, or gabled roofs, broken pediments, symmetrical facades, double-hung windows and shutters, fan lights, and side lights. So does this new architecture all? Did you look at all this on these drawings?
We'll get to it. I promise you we'll answer your question.
Okay, but this is my question. Maybe I'm not asking the right question, but do you have a list of certain requirements to meet for these kinds of structures?
Yes, I'll give an outline of that
Okay.
as we're going, so that for the public to
right,
understand the process more, and we'll touch on the style too.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all right, any other?
I do just want to acknowledge that we received written correspondence from Elena Urschel, Madison Taylor, and Mark Norris. And with that, I'll give it back to you.
All right, great. All right, to the commission, for, yes, good one. It's my day today to not close public comment. It's never ending open. I'll close, yeah, we'll close public comment, and we'll go to the commission for questions. And I'm guessing that we're going to get a lot of the same questions that the public has just asked, so we can kind of go through those as well. And actually, maybe why don't we just start with going through some of those, and then check it off, and then we'll add additional questions just to keep marching forward here. And please, these are questions from what we just heard in the public comment section that I wrote down, but we'll also please chime in as we have more or related ones. Okay, so to staff first on the chimney, on an understanding of what that permit process was and why we aren't seeing it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair to the rest of the commission and the audience, we will touch only very briefly on the chimney on the main residence because it is not part of today's agenda, but it met all of our administrative criteria and zoning standards. Therefore, it was able to be administratively approved. So no one through our procedure, we are not required to provide a public notice, and for anything that meets our administrative standards, it's not appealable. So the public does not have a say on whether or not, if something meets administrative criteria, it's not open for public comment or input.
So,
and that's why the commission didn't see it.
And I will,
So
I did,
to our
I did,
architecture
as
historian.
architectural historian, I did look at the removal of the chimneys. They are in the rear. They're not entire chimney stacks. They're just little tiny chimneys. They're not the ornate brick ones that we usually look at in our guidelines to protect. So because they're not even minimally visible from the public right away, and we look at things from the public right away, you can't even see them very minimally. They're not a prominent fireplace chimney that we sometimes see on the side of a gable, just so you know.
And for the public's understanding, so there's things like what color of paint, if you go by the historic standards, there's even changing windows and doors, just changing them out and refreshing them, but as long as they meet standards. So our city architecture historian can make those calls on minor items. On more major design items, which is still a lot, they'll come to either consent as those smaller ones, and then to larger projects like this will come to the full commission. So that's sort of how the process is, and the goal is to not make everything about massive, as slow as things are in Santa Barbara to get through permitting and everything else, to try to keep at least some things streamlined and still keep our quality up. So that's just as an understanding. I don't want to get into a lot of back and forth. I want to cover all these things and see if everyone's understanding at least at a basic level, and make sure that we're continuing with this
And through the chair
discussion.
to the audience, public comment is closed. This is not a question and answer period. Your period for public comment is closed. The commission will now answer the questions that you asked during your public comment period. If he feels it's necessary, he has the purview to reopen public comment, but please do not shout questions from the audience, and just keep in mind that your chance to speak has ended. So if the chair would like to reopen it, he can, but he may choose not to.
Yeah, so
Back
we'll
to the
see at the end, once we get through things and have the questions from the commission, we'll see if we have time for additional questions from the public for reopening. Okay, so that we discussed the chimney. Structures blocking views, and as it was mentioned previously, private views are not part of our purview. That's as long as it conforms to a zoning or requirements. Private views that we don't have any control over. We do have control over public views, so public views of both from the public view, how things look, as well as if it blocks the view of the mountains or ocean, that's also part of HLC's purview from the public right away. So it all has to be from the public realm for us to consider it. Neighbor views, if they build right to, as long as they're building within it, the zoning requirements, we don't have any jurisdiction over that. Okay, there was a question about the distance to the pool hut and height. Can we go to that?
Yeah, I can see.
Distance from both the property lines and, or right away and as well as the side.
Mr. Chair, may I ask the staff a question?
Sure.
The interior yard setback, it's being encroached upon on the south property line?
I believe the proposed ADU is meeting the ADU setback of 4 feet, is that correct?
It meets the ADU.
Correct. Yes, so the state has allowed an additional setback for accessory dwelling units of 4 feet, so it is not conforming to the standard setback, the standard interior setback for the lot, but per state law, it is allowed to encroach up to it's the 4-foot setback is the ADU setback.
And since we're on that, why don't we just add in the garage question of the existing versus and rebuilding where it is? And I'm assuming also there's no modification going to be required, or do we know yet if there's going to be a modification required?
Oh, for the garage and the setback. Let me look into that, and I'll get back to you on that question.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I've designed it in such a way that no modification is required.
I like you, and I kind of believe you, but it's going to have to come from staff.
Like is not going to work here.
Yeah, like Reagan said, trust but verify.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll get back to that on the setback question and the modification question as part of it. For the public's knowledge, if it does require modification, typically we are asked to weigh in on whether we would be supportive as an HLC. From the HLC side of things, on historic, there might be some reasons why or why not we are supportive of a modification, but then that actually we're just supporting or not supporting, and that goes to the staff hearing officer who has the authority to whether to grant a modification or not. So modifications aren't fully within our purview, but they are within our purview to recommend or not. So that would, if that becomes trigger, that'll be part of this discussion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
A question about the pool hut. The pool hut is 10 feet from the side yard setback, and it's about 150 feet from the back sidewalk, because if the two-car garage is 110, add another something to it.
Okay.
And how tall is
And then
it?
how tall?
14 feet.
To the ridge?
Yes. And it's a 6 and 12 roof pitch.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, on to additional questions. Let's see, interior yard setback. Yeah, okay, so I think that is covering it. Do all the other structures, seem like all the other structures conform to the required interior yard setbacks aside from the ADU, which as we understand it, complies with state, and then the garage, which in theory complies with it as well because it was existing. Is that true?
That is correct.
Okay. That's, please, we can't have, it's not a discussion once the public comment is over. So I'm checking what the applicant's understanding is. Staff will tell us what the actual rules. I'm sorry, sir, we have to keep it in this form. So we cannot have discussions with public once the public comment time is over. Okay, so please respect the process of this discussion so we can try to get down to as much of the truth as we can within our purview right here. Okay, so the demo permit for the garage. Was there a demo permit for the garage to staff? And
Through the chair to the rest of the commission, the demolition of the existing garage is proposed as part of this permit, and I think once it receives planning approval, it'll go to building and safety for the demo permit. And then all exterior changes to the site are included in this permit. So just to answer the public's question as to what all is being listed, these are just all the exterior alterations at the site. So the HLC's purview is over the exterior only, and they cover the exterior of not just the historic building, of the entire site. So it's just listing out for clarity for the public and for the Historic Landmarks Commission. This is all the exterior changes that are being proposed. This is what's under the HLC's purview. So then I'll back to you.
Okay, great. So the short summary of it is the this is, part of this is application for the demo permit, which will involve these things. Okay.
Actually, if I can interject, we
Sure.
weren't able to pull the interior remodel permit for the main house without putting the demolition of non-permitted structures as part of that permit. So it does have a permit, and it's currently been pulled.
Okay, well, that will be a point to clarify on staff's front, so we're understanding that.
So
Okay.
that's the storage component that's behind the garage, not the garage itself.
It's the shed behind the garage doesn't have a building permit. We have not destroyed the garage. The garage is still in place.
Okay. So that demo permit was just for the shed that was not permitted ever?
Correct.
Okay. And that's the only demo permit there is. So right now, this application would involve a demo permit for the garage as part of this whole process. Okay. Is that sounding right to staff?
That does sound correct. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And if for some reason there are details that we're not accurate about here, that will happen with staff afterwards as well. One more very key important point. This item is not for, this is a concept. Actually, is it a concept only review? Okay. Yeah, so no final appealable action can be taken at this meeting. So anything we do now, we will have comments that will come back to us when the application is deemed complete for project design approval, which is the first step. That's the main first step, and then the next step is final approval, which is just basically working out the details and the working drawings and making sure they conform with what was approved originally. So that's the process. This one is just going to be for our comments, which means that all these things will have to be addressed and confirmed for wherever they are in their process.
And they're really non-binding comments. I mean, we
Yes.
could change our mind.
They'll be on record, and then we will review them, and if there's anything that we find that's new or different than what we talked about today, it will be brought up by staff at the next time this is reviewed. Okay, so then, the question of the jacuzzi.
It's a spa. It's
Open spa jacuzzi kind of thing, right? Okay, so it's pool and open jacuzzi next to it, no structure over.
No structure over it.
And it's in ground, or is it elevated?
Two sides have a retaining wall behind it, yes.
Okay. All right. All right, so let's see, we already covered the setback of the garage. Okay, so then I think to sort of finish off the comment that staff was making, or to tie into it, the 6-foot-high fence, and the other things, mechanical equipment, demo trees, all those things that are listed, that's typical so that we understand fully what the project is. And we do have, and often do require both color and materials, palettes for things like fences, as well as even design of the fences. Certain panelings or other things are appropriate or are not appropriate, depending on the style and the neighborhood. So all those things are, even though they're just to code regular things, as part of the overall process, they are actually within our purview to review and are part of the project.
And through the chair to the rest of the commission and the audience, I did look into it, and I figured out how the applicant was able to design the garage with where it's meeting the property line and it is not adhering to the current setback. So the garage that is proposed for demolition was an existing non-conforming structure that is allowed to be rebuilt per our city ordinance if it meets a certain amount of criteria. I can read out the criteria, but the garage as designed does meet all of our criteria to be rebuilt in the same location where it does not meet the setback. So because the existing garage is built right next to the property line, the proposed garage is allowed to be in that space as well.
Rebuilt
Okay,
in the
thank you.
same location.
Yes.
And one more clarification to the commission, Chair and the commission. When we designate a building historic structure, we add in the resolution, the entire parcel is going to go under HLC because they are the experts in designing for compatibility. So when they look at the front wall and the iron work, they're going to decide if that's compatible with the house. That way, projects don't have to go to two boards and really confuse expertise. So all structures of merit, the whole parcel always goes to the HLC. So that's why
That's a good-
they look at, and they really do look so that the whole parcel works as one whole and is not pieced apart with some elements that wouldn't be compatible.
And the other design review body for Santa Barbara is a single-family design board. And so all non-historic or non-El Pueblo Viejo downtown areas, they go to the single-family design board. But, okay, great. So next, the long list of all the pieces, including hardscapes and everything else, is all part of that, our regular review of those things. Mechanical equipment will have to meet standard codes for sound, as well as any visual things that we feel, especially from the public right away. So just for the public's knowledge, that's where mechanical equipment does get reviewed by us as well. And then demo trees, we always want to know how many trees are going, and then of course if they're protected. But that's just a standard part of the review, is understanding how many things are being demoed and what's being proposed. We talked about chimney. Style was the other last question I have before I go to the other commissioners in terms of what they have. So the question of the American Colonial Revival style. So the City of Santa Barbara has a very thorough, big work effort of a historic style guide, that architecture style guide that you can look up, and you could see how American Colonial Revival plays out in Santa Barbara, and then how the house is related to it. And I think that's the house and the ADU are slightly different in terms of their style, and so we can get into that discussion later. But just for the public's knowledge, that is part of, it's online. You can see it's hundreds, 400 or 500 pages or so, but there's one on each one of our major styles, and American Colonial Revival is one of them, and it'll give you some of the history there and what are the character defining features. Not all American Colonial Revivals have all the features at all. Those are just typical features that you see, and then you'll be able to see how this house has some of those features, and I think that might be illuminating in terms of how we're going to be reviewing it as well. Okay, so with that, is there other questions that I missed that commissioners have?
I have a question of staff.
Okay.
You have reviewed this garage proposal, and you find that a single garage, which is 35 feet deep, or whatever it is okay in the setback, as long as the portion of it which was in the original setback, as long as a portion of it is in its original footprint.
So let me ask clarification on that. So what you're saying is basically, so say this was a 20-foot deep garage that was too short, but it was right on the property line, and you're saying that staff is saying it's okay to extend it to just the basic required, whether that is 25 feet or 30, whatever it is, but you're saying keeping it in the same footprint, then growing it longer.
Well, I'm saying if
it's still allowed.
That much, all of a sudden we're going to have a garage which is that deep, and it's okay. Staff is telling us it's okay because this portion here is only in the original footprint. And
I thought you were saying because this would be extended.
I'm saying, how do we make a decision? How does the staff make a decision that a much bigger structure is okay to be in a setback as long as a portion of it is in the original footprint? And it's really a zoning ordinance determination as
Correct.
opposed to an architectural determination.
Yes, and through the chair to the rest of the commission, it was reviewed by one of our zoning reviewers, and it meets all of the criteria in our zoning ordinance.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
All right, great. Yeah, I wasn't understanding your question right. Okay, other questions from the commission?
Yeah, I have a few. Did you look at is there no way that you could make the garage work? I mean, I realize you've got, okay, sorry. How big is the garage, the new garage?
The garage is 500 square feet, because that's the maximum size for a residential garage. There's a single-car garage that's 18 feet deep currently, and the zoning allows me to make a 20-foot interior deep, and it's written in there as an exception, as long as I don't increase the roof pitch by more than 12 inches or 4 and 12, and I'm matching it 100%. So I'm able to rebuild the first-car garage bay, let's call it, matching the existing garage, even though I'm now 6 inches from the property line instead of 2 inches from the property line. Then once I'm more than 10 feet from the property line, I can make the garage extra deep, which is where I have that extra storage, which is why there's that odd notch that is in there, because that's the 10-foot mark.
Okay. So are you, regardless of what you can figure out that you can do without a modification, then you have to kind of go back and say, well, what's going to look the best? And, even though I can do this, should I do this? Is it even possible to make it work to slide the whole thing over so that so that you don't have this I'll say odd situation with the two different roofs? Is it even possible to do? Did you look at that and see if that could work?
If I was to move the garage 4 feet or 10 feet
Or
from
even
the
6,
property line.
let's say 4 feet, because then it would align.
Correct, but I'm pushing it into the backyard. And
Right.
these are narrow lots. The lots aren't getting any wider. I can't push my lot the other direction. That's just.
No, I understand, but I mean, still, did you look at that and would you be able to do it? Because there would be benefits in other ways. You benefit by maybe some more simplification of the design and the structural aspects of it if you were able to just slide it over and just make a simple roof.
So sorry, tied to
I'm
that-
asking the question.
Yeah, so
did
tied
you
to
look
that
at-
question, I wanted even more clarification on it. So is that allowed? If you're not right on the same footprint, are you allowed to slide it 3 feet or 4 feet, and is that still okay in the according to
Right.
zoning? Like, can you slide
Do
it
you
any
have to
amount,
make it
or
be
do you have to
exactly-
make it on the?
Through the chair to the rest of the commission, I would not be able to comment on how an alternative design would meet our zoning standards. That would be something, if the applicant proposes an alternative design, we'll route it for review with transportation staff and zoning staff. But I only can comment on the current design, which does meet our zoning standards and does not trigger a zoning modification or a minor zoning exception. I think maybe perhaps what the applicant was getting at is if the garage was pushed over, he might not be able to meet open yard requirements. But I think the applicant can speak to that more as someone who's worked on this design.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Chair, part of the issue is the very narrow requirements of legal nonconforming structures and what you can do or cannot do to them. And typically, you've got to keep it in the same footprint, and you're allowed to do some modification, but it's narrow. So if the applicant chose to build a new one, then it would have, and follow Commissioner Ensberg's suggestion, then it would have to meet the setback, and that puts it in the middle of the yard, as he's suggesting. So, and maybe what needs to happen when the project comes back is the applicant have a thorough hit list of how that legal nonconforming section is being complied to, and what the options are in it, because I think it's fairly narrow.
Okay, Commissioner Ensberg, do you want to finish your question?
Okay, the other question was, are we only looking at the garage? We aren't being able to look at the ADU or comment on the ADU?
Because the ADU does not meet our ministerial criteria, the entire
Okay.
ADU is under your purview as
Okay,
well.
and then, great, thanks. And then what is the square footage of the ADU? I'm sure it's on there, but I didn't happen to.
1,072 square feet. It's 2-bedroom, 2-bath.
1072?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Yeah, and I think you said that the chimney was on there as a decorative feature because you were trying to tie it in with the main structure of the house.
Correct.
And can you go to the elevations as well while you're talking about that? Okay, great, thanks.
Okay. I think those are all the questions I had. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Commissioner Butler, did you have any questions?
Yes, first of all, just for clarification, you're not proposing any modifications to the existing house?
That is correct.
Correct. There's I wish I'd written down the page numbers. There's a front view of the ADU. Can we see that? I'd like to see it. You've applied wrought iron and.
Oh, yes.
You know the one I'm referring to?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
This.
So this is the ADU.
No.
No, this
That's
is
the
the
main
house.
house, and that's
Okay.
the front yard of the main house.
This is the front yard of the main house.
Street.
Let me show you this.
Yeah, do you have, because I missed the stonework and the ironwork on the front.
Okay, you can see where the sidewalk happens, and we're adding another little area with the little dots for people to get out of their car with walking in the plants in the parkway. And then there's a walkway that goes straight to the front door, and there's going
Can
to
you
be...
hover over it with your mouse while you're talking?
Yes, I can.
Thanks.
Okay, right here is where you can get out. This is where you set in, and there are 2 lanterns set back, and that says 5 feet back. There is no gate. The first gate is right here at the top of the wrought iron nist that's on top of the fence. Is a stone fence here and a stone fence here. They're both 30 inches tall, so there's no guardrail requirements, and then the brick sidewalk goes all the way to the front. This existing staircase is existing to remain. The porch is existing, and the front door is existing. And down here at the bottom, you can see a section through it, so we've got the lantern on a pedestal, and this is the parkway, sidewalk, setback, and we do have a grade that we have to deal with the steps, and so we're terracing it in there, and it's just to sort of give it a more formal entrance. Right now, previously, when they purchased the house, it had a huge hedge. They chopped the hedge down to 42 inches. We're going to remove the hedge and remake it a sandstone wall, and then have a certain type of landscaping in the fork, what we're calling the public terrace. And then behind the wrought iron is going to be the private terrace, which will be for the dogs, so they can open up the front door where the dog's going to run around and see things.
Can you scroll us some photo? Oh, sorry, you were on.
Well, this is all proposed, correct?
It is 100% proposed.
This is not existing on the current lot.
No,
put it
and
Do you
that
have a
way.
photo of
That's
basically
what-
what it looks
yeah,
like now?
Yes,
That's
I
what
do.
I want to be very clear about, what is being proposed versus what is extant today.
There's the
So
hedge.
see- Right.
And the hedge was, chopped down because they sold it. The realtor said, you got to chop it. I'm sure it was a lot taller when it was a private residence, previous owners.
Right, so, thank you, this is perfect. So what you're proposing, this is the existing house, is to add stone and wrought iron fencing, not directly to the house.
No.
But in the yard area or in the front yard. Thank
Correct.
you, because in the image, I first
The
looked at it,
elevation,
and I
yeah,
thought,
looks like-
no way.
But there's, 3 feet of grade between the sidewalk and
Okay,
the house.
okay.
And it's the terracing up.
Great, thanks for the clarification. Also, there are 2 dormers on the ADU, correct?
That is correct.
This is, okay, if you can take us there. Yeah, okay, that's great. Can you enlarge that just a little bit?
I was working
Or
on that.
Whatever. Okay, so the dormers are,
Oops,
oh, that's fine.
I'm
That
going
gives
too
us a sense
fast
of-
now.
Okay.
Actually, the perspective is probably good.
Yeah, it helps to be
There's
able
the
to
2
see.
dormers, and they centered with the windows below.
And then
Go to the next page.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, can you zoom into that perspective that's on angle on top left? Yeah.
See this roof line, okay. Okay,
And are those dormers, what are they in line with?
yeah.
Where do they go to?
They're aligned with the sliding glass doors that are down below, except I wanted to have a dining area, so one of the bedrooms is pushed back further. I can show you with the mouse. Right here, this is a pair of doors, and it's like 4 feet of covered walk, let's say, or covered patio. This area has 12 feet because I have a dining room table here, and so this is pushed back. These 2 dormers line up with this exterior wall, and so this is going to become like a light shelf for this bedroom behind.
Okay.
So let me go up a sheet.
And then just one more question.
Yes?
So, and this is, keep it right there, that's fine, or that one. So
Here, they
here,
showed the
you're
lineup.
proposing to actually apply limestone or stonework to the exterior of the ADU unit.
That is
That
correct.
is not extant on the original house.
That is correct.
Thank you.
What is the foundation to wall transition for the original house?
It is painted
Brick?
concrete,
Oh, brick, concrete, okay.
and it's maybe 18 inches exposed.
Okay. And then can you go to a back photograph view of the house?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Oops.
Yeah, that towards
Yes.
the bottom right or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pain in the butt.
Thank you. Go slowly.
I think the image is overexpanded.
Yeah, maybe,
You may have to shrink it to get
yeah,
it to
shrink it
move.
first and then
Yeah,
zoom in.
there you go.
One more.
There it is.
There's the back.
There,
Yeah.
The proposed ADU is 30 feet, the garage ADU structure is 30 feet from the existing corner of the house.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, great, that's very helpful. Okay, other questions from the commissioners?
I have a question which I assume we are not allowed to ask.
Never stopped you.
True, true. The fireplace, which is, exterior fireplace, which is being worked on right now,
Yes.
and that staff has approved, are we seeing the end result of that fireplace now?
No, there'll be brick veneer on it, and the brick veneer will be terraced out. I mean, we have one level and then another
Again,
level.
we really shouldn't talk about things that are not on the agenda.
It's
Well, I
not
wanna-
part of the purview of this
It's a historic
project.
house, and I'm concerned about it, and I'm concerned the staff may have approved something that we would not have approved, from the standpoint of a metal chimney extending up with a metal cap.
Okay, so I think we can ask staff to come and send us out information about what the design was or whatever, if we want, and have a different discussion of it, but I think in terms of process, we can't get into it now. So the only other reason I would see to try to keep talking about it would be to ask what the shape originally was if we're trying to match it on the ADU. But aside from what the ADU is, I don't think we shouldn't talk about the chimney.
Yeah, because the city attorney will bounce in the back door there. and-
That's right.
That's
we'll
the
all be in trouble.
original right there in the picture.
Okay, so what we're looking at is the original.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so let's roll into comments. So this is for concept review. So I think that we're going to want to give it that on at least the major fronts and the bigger picture stuff. Okay, so I will, normally we don't do this at all, because it ends up with back and forth arguing, and Robert Rules of Order is very clear about how to progress through from public and to discussion and then to decision-making in these ways. I'll be needing to leave in 27 minutes, so we'll open up public comment for 1 minute for someone who wants to tell us something, but please make it about something that is new information that we haven't discussed as part of this. So, okay, with that, we're reopening public comment. Please tell us your name for the record. And then you got 1 minute.
Is this working? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to apologize. I get a little worked up when things seem to be not conforming to the rules and regulations. A couple things. One, it is definitely not a narrow lot. If you could put up the site plan, you'll see it's a very wide lot. The other thing is, why are the dormers on the ADU not conforming to the dormers on the house? The design is radically different. And they are enlarging the garage. I don't understand why it wouldn't conform to the setback. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Any other public wishing to comment this time? All right, well, closing public comment for the second time. I'm making up for all the non-closing public comment earlier. Okay, back to the commission. I think we'll just run down the line and then I'll close off with comments and we can turn it into our discussion. Sorry, we're going to have to keep going. If you have additional comments, you can add it in for the next time. Public comments closed and we've opened it more than we normally ever do, so. Yes, yeah. Yeah, you can ask after the meeting, open it over as long as it's not with more than 1 or 2 commissioners. So, and do ask the staff is probably the best. And then she'll forward your question to everyone. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so I think for commissioners' initial thoughts and comments on it, on the design and general direction, then we'll try to come to agreement on the different comments, and I'll note them for going forward. All right, so Commissioner Ensberg, do you want to kick us off?
Thank you. Thank you always for the great presentation and for all the work that you've put into this. And This is a really house worthy of some tender loving care, I think. I would say that this picture we're looking at right now, this is very complex. There's a lot of things going on in the original house. We can see that, right? If we could go to the elevations. Yeah, and maybe blow them up a little bit. My general feeling is that the simplification would really help a lot. I feel that there's too much roof thing going on. I don't know if the garage could be, why it necessarily has to be 500 square feet. If it could possibly be 400 or something like that, maybe that would help you out. But I feel that I would like to see from this elevation looking from the street, it just, the two pieces together seem overly complex to me, and if that could be pulled together and be one thing, even if the roof was different, and that the ADU have its own, maybe it's a hip roof, and then the two pieces on either end become more simple or something. I'd like to see more formality in the site plan as well. It just seems like there's an awful lot going on, and then if you could go through and just really strip it away to what's really essential, I think you could end up with, an improved project. And this would be the time, this is do you want to go to the floor plan or the site plan for a minute? Yeah. So just how that, the pool, how the symmetry around the pool, I think that would be benefited by being more, it's symmetrical around the main house, but it's not symmetrical around the ADU. I think that could help. And let's see, what else? And then the front. I know other commissioners will have great things to say too. So when we were looking at the photograph of the house from the street, it's much more simple. I feel like this is just, again, adding more complexity. I realize you have dogs and you're trying to contain them. I don't know why that needs to be a double layer like that, and why you couldn't just have the simple yard with the stone and the fence around, why it has to have that double thing, unless there's something to do with, as you mentioned, the stair stepping and the grade differential. But when we were looking at the front from the photograph, it just seemed like this is just adding, again, another layer of complexity. So I'd just like to see, I think, benefit of simplification. So those are my comments right now. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Lenvik.
Yeah, I would agree with Commissioner Ensberg. I think it could be simplified. I don't know why the dormers are needed. I mean, on the main house, there's a living area up there. There's no living area above here. And I think simplifying that roof would be a big help. I also feel that to pick up on the main house, you've got to use cut-up windows, not single pane. I think the character of the main house is really in its windows a lot, and in the shutters that'll be back on there eventually. But I think that the roof on the ADU is a little complex. I think it can be made simpler. I don't know that you need to have a hip roof on both ends, on the, would be the west end, I suppose it is. I just think it could be simplified. And the triple or paired columns, I don't know why you're not using a, whatever the column is in the front, Ionic or Doric or whatever it is. I don't know why you don't use that kind of a column here to pick up what's happening on the main house. It'd be nice to see this ADU kind of settle in as if it was built at the same time the main house was, using the same stuff. The architect was using the same stuff. And I think we owe a lot of, we should respect Sewell's design a lot. And I think that what Sewell do here, I think, is probably the way to look at this. Whether or not the garage can be manipulated or one way or the other, I don't know, but I think it can be simplified, and the roof needs to be simplified a lot.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Uli?
Thank you. I tend to agree with both of those commissioners' comments. For the front yard progression from the street to the front door, I think the commission is going to need some precedent for how you arrived at that solution. For me, it's a very East Coast kind of thing, and I'm not quite sure it goes with the original house. And I have the same comment about the dormers on the ADU. I think you could eliminate those and make that building much quieter. I would suggest that you not try and echo the main house. It should stand by itself. Be sympathetic, but stand by itself.
All right. Commissioner Butler?
Thank you. This is concept review, so
Yes.
this is the hard part. So first of all, I support my fellow commissioners. The front yard thing just really bothers me. Candidly, the house by itself is fine and great, and it looks like it's been added on. And I just would really, seriously give a rethink of that. Putting more stonework up there, which relates to, there's no other stonework on the original house, but you're going to add it to the ADU and the footing, right? So to me, that breaks up the connection between the two units. The ADU doesn't need it if the original house doesn't need it. So I just question that. It's a beautiful feature. I don't deny that, and it's contiguous all over the neighborhood. I just think that I'm not sure that it really works. Back to the ADU. So it's already been brought up about the dormers. I'm not sure that you need those. A second thought to that is the window placements as I'm looking. They need to be a little more centered, looking at where the windows are actually placed on the front of the ADU. I'm not sure if it's for lighting purposes or whatever. I'm not sure they're aligned with anything. I'm not sure. So by looking at it, I can't really sure about that. And then there's did I get this right? There's 2 garage entries? I mean, there's basically.
That is correct. There's one that is.
Yeah, the lower
Do you have a perspective of that,
Yeah,
actually?
because that's
Yes,
a
I
little
do.
awkward, and it seems a little, well, let's pull it up, and I'll ask the question.
I do have a perspective.
Because knowing nighttime driving, yes, so it's just, I would encourage you to work on somehow to make those look a little more symmetrical to each other, or somehow related, because it almost looks like the garage unit on the left has been added at a later date to what would be the ADU garage, or the new garage, right?
They bought a longer car.
Well,
A taller car.
I'd be afraid of hitting something when I pull in at night. I'm serious. And then back to the ADU, you've used 2 twin column sort of configuration out to hold in the front. To me, that doesn't match the style. I'm just trying to keep it a little more consistent with the original house. So I think the challenge is going to be how to make the ADU much more closer to what the style of the original house itself is. And I would encourage you to find some ways to possibly make that happen. Thank
Commissioner
you.
Lemnick, were you going to say something?
Yes, I want to kind of back up Commissioner Ensberg's comments regarding the front yard. There's the grade transition on that property from the street to the front door isn't that great. It doesn't warrant spending, tens of thousands of dollars on stonework. It doesn't warrant it. And I'm trying to think in my mind's eye right now what the rest of the block is. I don't believe the rest of the block has stone at all. I don't even think there are probably Mediterranean-style homes on this side of the street. I just don't recall.
Yeah, street photos.
But I think that you could handle the grade change, just in grade change. Maybe you need to have a iron fence or whatever at the property, back of the property line or whatever. But I don't think we need to take and change the character of the street with putting in stone walls there. Dogs aren't forever, but
Okay, strike that from the record. Right.
But I think you ought to relook
Yeah,
at, you ought to look at the character that you're creating or intending to create and reflect back on what it really should be for this house, this structure of merit.
All right. If everyone has put their, I think I captured most of what everything has been said, and it seems to be pretty much well conforming. The part that I would add, I agree with my commissioner's comments. I think the part of the sort of some of the conflicting discussion is resolving around what is the style, what's the language of the ADU, right? And I think there's a couple of ways to do it. I think both of the main ones were mentioned. One is basically match the style of the existing historic house, but treat it as if it was the chauffeur's quarters or the cottage or the gatehouse or some other, the minor building that uses the same materials but even a little bit simpler or humbler. Nothing's ever fancier than, so you might not have as fancy rafter tails. Maybe you have just simple rafter tails if you have eaves like that. Maybe you have the columns, maybe instead of having even capitals, I don't know if they have capitals from the pictures, but maybe they just get simplified down to a shaft that has entasis and that's it. Or some sort of simplified version of it as the back house. And that's one way of treating it. Or another way is to just treat it in a sympathetic way, but that's not trying to match the pitch of the roof, match the everything, but just being a low-key vernacular that could have been built 10 or 20 years later in a simple way. And that's possible too, but both of them are sort of a little humbler than the main house. And I think that's, whichever way you go with it, you could probably find good precedents in the neighborhood even of it done probably both of those ways for addition houses in the back. But that's, I think, where we would kind of go with it. So for some examples for the dormers, looking at all the dormers on the main house, it looks like they're, for the most part, shed. And if they're in the middle of the roof, they're popping up in the middle of the roof, or they're on the outer wall plane, which you see in the second to the left, top one there. So alignment with the wall planes is going to, if you do try to go for the dormer, you really need to either align with the wall plane or set it within that space. But the steeper pitches allow dormers to be more useful, right? And they make more sense. So on little structures, with low slope roofs, it's rare to actually find dormers, which I think might be part of what looks a little odd to trying to get the dormer, even though dormers are charming, we love dormers. But if the structure is small and doesn't have quite the pitch, it's hard for them to feel like they're comfortable. So I don't know if that kind of helps in terms of some of the tweakings, but I'll summarize the comments that were said. Any questions about the comments that have been said so far in terms of from the commissioners?
As long as there's an understanding that I either can quote the front house and make the back house with similar, ideas, or I can be of the same style and be sympathetic, but I don't have to copy 100% like the columns and all these other kinds of details. Just make it look like it's appropriate for the neighborhood, like a neighborhood setting versus a complete copy.
And visually, which if you saw these two structures separately, you would know even a window door, a little vignette of it, you would know that's the back secondary structure, and this is the main one. So it has to be equal or simpler, as one way of doing it. And the other is to just try to do a simpler style that's just sort of a more vernacular and try to get that to work. But it still has to be sympathetic to the main house to some degree, but it doesn't have to be really strongly as quoting from the materials and everything else. So. But it still can't be fancier, even if you pick it. Yeah.
I think you've stated it very, very well, that it should be the little baby in the back and much more simple. And I think as I'm looking at these pictures, what you don't want, you want to take your palette. You have a palette. So you don't want to add new things to the palette. You want to keep the palette you have and just pull from the ones that you need and not add anything new, right? That's my thinking. And that what you would not want to do is to, looking at this center picture in the middle, I mean, this house is really complex, right? So you don't want to make an overly complex new thing. You want to keep it really simple so that it can just be kind of the background for this, which is the main attraction is the main house, and just pull from your existing materials, put them together in a nice clean way, in the back. And I think that's speaking to what.
And actually, there was one more point, as you were saying that, I realized I forgot, was, so the roof forms, right? So part of the big question is your roof forms. This house is very, fairly unique in Santa Barbara. I mean, every main massing of it is a jerkin head, which is that clipped gable. And so it's a gable with a little hip on top, right? So, but all the massings are that way, and it's not mixing them. So that's a pretty strong move. It could be that you can work it out with a hip roof all the way around, sort of simplify the massing in that way. Gable, maybe, but there's no exposed gable poking out on this house even. So as soon as you do a full triangle with that gable, it now jumps out as different for sure. So I don't know if you're going to have much luck with a gable, or and you might try to just work with the hips. And
It could possibly work when you're talking about, being sympathetic. So maybe if you're just making this very simple form and you just do a gabled roof, and then you have the two pieces on either end, and then all the colors are the same. You've got the shutters, and you have the siding and the pitch.
Yeah, and in
are
a
the
certain
same.
sense,
So
as
you're
if they had built it when they built the old garage.
Right.
And just kind of kept it as a simple gable form.
right instead of this. Yeah.
Yeah, but it really has to just super simplify, and even if you do go gable, especially. Okay, so why don't I try to summarize the comments? Sorry, Commissioner Lenvik, were you?
Just a bit of history. The garage was permitted by Lockwood DeForest.
Oh, really?
Dear.
In the archaeology report, they mentioned that. It was 10 years after this house was built. Lockwood DeForest's home is around the corner at 1815 Laguna, which is a historic structure, I believe.
It is.
And this lot and that lot abut each other. If you look at the site, it's a site plan. So Lockwood DeForest did that little garage, maybe, which we don't talk about that. But it is interesting. And also, I found out from Nicole that Sewell was the son-in-law of Lockwood DeForest.
It's all coming together now.
All coming together.
So the garage is historic.
Now you can't do anything, no.
And has a gable.
No. Okay, so to wrap it up, I think I'll go through and I'll give a summary of all of our comments, and then we can look for a motion to continue with that. On the front yard, I agree with the fellow commissioners as well, and I think that the general note is look at what the character of the neighborhood is and how they deal with some of these level changes, and try to work that into your palette. It seems like there's a lot going on, and maybe you hide a fence in a small hedge or something and still get the dog thing to work or something. But it seems like there's a lot going on to get from the sidewalk to the front door, and maybe look at some of your neighbors and show us some examples of how you're working with the general streetscape of that. The good neighbors, not the bad ones.
And I think we should thank the property owner.
Yes, yep.
For the work he's doing on the main house, because I went by today and it is sad. And it's got to be saved, so we should thank the owner for doing that.
Yep, that's a great point. So we'll start off with that one. So thank the applicant for bringing this project to us, and really thank the owners for a house very worthy of some TLC, and yeah, could really use it. And thank you for taking care of this historic resource with your project. So, I'll sort of summarize, try to start from the front and go to the back. Our first comment is the front yard, to simplify it, and maybe one instead of two retaining walls, but to look at neighbors and find good precedent in the neighborhood for ways of solving what you want to do with the front yard. The character, now I think we go from there to the back. The garage, let's go to the garage. The garage elevation is unresolved, and study simplifying it, front elevation as well as the overall massing, to study simplifying it and looking at either hipped or gable roofs if they are very simply done. The dormers on the garage, on the ADU, the dormers seem overly complex and aren't aren't conducive to the small structure as well as the main house, and so to restudy those. The site plan needs to be simpler and maybe more formal in structure, symmetrical. About the pool was a suggestion, or other. We talked about that. Let's see, the character of the ADU in terms of its detailing, including windows, columns, or piers, et cetera, should be more referential to the main house, including the division of windows or muntins, as well as materials and details, but done in a more simple, sympathetic but simple way. And then the overall style of the ADU, to study that, and as to whether it is a simpler version of the main house or some other simple back structure in vernacular that is sympathetic to the main house, even if it's not of the same exact language of American Colonial Revival. All right, did I miss any main ones?
One
Okay.
other thing, Chair.
Commissioner Ensberg.
How does everybody feel about the, I think we talked about the dormers, that they could come, or they could be there or not be there, depending on how they work the new design. What do you feel about the chimney? In my opinion, I don't think it's necessary. I think it'd be okay to lose it, but I wanted to know what the rest of you think.
My gut is it would, yeah, my gut is if this was a back little chauffeur's quarters or something, it would have a chimney because that would be how they heated it. If it's done sensitively, it might be a good element, but we might not like it if it's not. And you could end up doing plumbing stacks or other things there, so.
Through the chair to the rest of the commission, would it be acceptable to add a comment that some commissioners feel that the chimney on the ADU is unnecessary?
That's probably fair.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Yeah, let's just, well, that way we can see it. It might, yeah. Okay, so, the chimney might be supportable. And Commissioner Ensberg?
Did you mention your great comments about just the whole overall approach, more simplification, and that you did say that? Okay.
Yeah, and I think I got the comment in there about style too, choosing either the main house as the style, just a slightly simpler form, or something that's compatible and realistic of a back house version.
I had a comment regarding cut-up windows. I'm not sure that anybody else.
Yes, I did say muntins. Yeah, I got that in there. And so, yeah.
Through the chair, do you mind repeating that comment about the muntins? Did the secretary catch that comment about the muntins?
Okay.
Yes.
It was going to be a video one?
Would you
Okay,
repeat that?
so I think the comment was tied to character details of the main house and carrying them over. So including adding muntins to the windows, columns or piers, and then any other detailing that would be appropriate. Yeah, shutters, and he had already the applicant had indicated sensitively about the Hardy siding and actually getting this, corners to work like this. So that's a great example of working from the main house with your details. So I think you're on the right path for that, and just incorporate a little more of that.
Or less.
Or less. Okay, any other additional comments? All right, I would look for a motion with
I'll
those
move
comments.
an indefinite continuance.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second under discussion. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. I'll begin with Commissioner Butler,
Yes?
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvik,
Yes.
Vice Chair Uli,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
and thank
Good
you
luck.
to the property owners for all right, and with that, I think we are complete, so we will adjourn. Yes. All right, we are adjourned. All right.